So what else is going on? Jorge, what are you doing up there in Seattle?
Well, good morning, Tanya. Still working on that a potential deal selling a restaurant in Portland. I'm actually heading down on Tuesday to Portland, and I am working with a business broker, and she is out of Oregon, and she does mostly gas stations. She's an experienced business broker, and but apparently the level of income of the restaurant is way too low, and so that may not be an attractive deal unless the owner thinks of selling the building where the restaurant is.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if the real estate is also involved.
Well, he's thinking about leasing it, but you know, just the lease would be a minor thing. Apparently according to Tiffany, the value of the restaurant is about 200, maybe 250, and the owner wanted to sell it for 400. So
okay. Well, I mean, that's the conversation we all have to have with the business owners, right?
Yeah.
And to educate them that the business value is really a function of cash flow and not necessarily, you know, what they need to pay off their SBA loan, or, you know, what they need to have a more comfortable retirement, or what they need to pay them back for the leasehold improvements that they put out there. So, you know, what a business owner wants for the business is typically irrelevant. It's what is the value of the business, and the value is going to be dictated typically by cash flow.
yeah, absolutely. Maybe if the owner is open to seller financing, he could get a little more, but this is going to be a tough call.
Yeah, it is. But
Tough.
sometimes what you can do is run a spreadsheet, you know, run the calculations of what you can check with an SBA lender and they'll run it for you. And have them give you a model of what it looks like. If he sells for 450, you know, let's say somebody comes in with 15% down and they get an SBA loan for the other 85%. And then plus the SBA guarantee fees, and you have to have, typically the SBA lenders are going to subtract out some type of reasonable salary. So if you figured out that the cash flow is, let's say, 125,000 or whatever, yeah, let's use that. So 125,000, and let's say you take out 75,000 as a salary for the buyer. That only leaves you $50,000 left to cover the debt service. Yeah. So, you know, when you run that spreadsheet, or have the SBA lender run that spreadsheet and give it to you, a lot of times you can sit down with the seller and go through that and say, look, this is the cash flow that we calculated that your business, your restaurant is throwing off. And after the add backs, everything else, we've got $125,000 we can work with. A buyer coming in needs to get, even if they're buying a job, they need to get paid, right? Yeah. And typically they want some type of return on their investment. And so there's just not a lot of cash flow here to work with at the price that you're looking for. Now, if we reduce that down and all of a sudden, you know, we sell this, or we think we can sell this for $250, the payments are going to be substantially lower, right? Because you're not borrowing as much. There's not as much debt to cover at that point. And so that model is going to look very different. Yeah, you still only have, you know, if you subtract out 75,000, you still only have $50,000 to work with to cover your debt service, but your debt is so much lower, you might be able to do that in a reasonable manner. Yeah, so I would just check if you have an Excel model, you can put them an Excel model together to do that. If you don't have one, then I would check with an SBA lender the one, you know, the SBA lender that you're typically working with, because you need that relationship too, and get that from them. And then you can use that to help you persuade or educate your sellers.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you so much. Yeah, that
Of
is a
course.
good idea.
Yeah,
That,
no,
that,
I've
that puts the
had to do
burden
that
of,
many times.
yeah, that puts the burden of the valuation on the lender, not on us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that because you know, you're telling them the truth. It's like, look at, I mean, I had a conversation with some sellers not too long ago where I said, your business value today is less than it was a year ago, not because of anything you did, but because the Fed decided to increase the interest rates very aggressively last summer. And by doing that, they devalued every single small business in the country.
Yeah.
Because the cost of capital is much higher now than it was a year ago. Okay. And so when your cost of capital increases, it means people can't afford to pay as much because
Yeah.
now they've got all that debt service that they have to be able to cover using the cash flow of the business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, good. Thank
Okay.
you. Great idea.